Proto-Zechariah. So Proto-Zechariah, remember that in the Bible we have a book of Isaiah, which we divide into at least 3 different authors. Same with the book of Zechariah. It's one book in the Bible, the book of Zechariah, but we could easily divide it into 2, if not 3, different authors. So we refer to them as Proto-Zechariah, the first section, Deutero, and Trito-Zechariah. Let's just focus on Proto-Zechariah first. So like Isaiah, Zechariah is comprised of 2 to 3 authors. We know that chapters 1 to 8 are one author, and 9 to 14 are another author or 2. So when we refer to Proto-Zechariah, we're talking about chapters 1 through 8. Proto-Zechariah, chapters 1 through 8, and Haggai were contemporaries, meaning they were living at that same time. 520 again was the year in which Haggai was composing. So at the same time, we have Proto-Zechariah writing as well. They're both concerned with the rebuilding of the temple. Haggai was a pragmatist, remember, appealing to the king's self-interest. If you rebuild the temple, you'll be the ring on God's hand. Zechariah, in contrast, was more a visionary. So his first oracle is dated to October to November 520. Do you remember when it was that Haggai wrote? He started prophesying in August, so that's why they're almost the same month. You follow that? Haggai starts prophesying in August, and then 2 months later, we have Proto-Zechariah with his writing. So we date that to 2 months after Zerubbabel has begun the work of rebuilding the temple. And then much of the remainder of Proto-Zechariah deals with 8 visions over 2 months. All of the visions are outlined here. Vision number 1 deals with 4 horses of 4 different colors, with riders patrolling the earth. We're going to hear that later, the book of Revelation. Do you remember our study from the Johannine literature, right? 4 horsemen on 4 different colored horses. Oh, wait a minute, he didn't make that up. That comes from Zechariah. Second vision is a vision of 4 horns representing the nations that oppressed Judah and Israel and Jerusalem. Third vision, a man is measuring Jerusalem with a measuring line. Think about this for a moment. Back in the day before tape measures or yardsticks, how did we measure things? We took a piece of rope, and if this side of the building has to be the same length as that side, we use the same rope on this side to measure the other side, and it's the same length. So a man measures Jerusalem with a measuring line, and Zechariah is told that Jerusalem is going to be so huge that you're not going to be able to measure it. How's that for a vision? Vision 4, Joshua the high priest is accused by an accuser before the angel of the Lord. We're going to come back to that in our text study in a moment. The Hebrew word for accuser, we've probably heard it before, is Satan. So how it is that someone's going to be accusing the high priest before the angel of the Lord. Vision number 5 is about a gold lampstand and a bowl and 2 olive trees. Where do we get olive oil from? From olive trees. So how interesting that those olive trees likely represent 2 consecrated figures, 2 people who were consecrated with olive oil. So what would those 2 trees represent? Probably the governor, Zerubbabel, and the high priest, Joshua. Vision number 6 is about a large scroll, a large flying scroll. It measures 20 cubits by 10 cubits. What is a cubit? Have we heard of a cubit before? Cubit is the distance from the tip of your middle finger to your elbow. So back in an age before measuring tapes and yardsticks, how to measure things by a cubit. So 1 cubit then was from elbow to forefinger. That's 1, 2, we'd measure it off. That's cubit. So if you imagine a scroll that's roughly 20 cubits by 10 cubits, that would be roughly 30 feet by 15 feet. What's written on the scroll? All the names of the bad people in the world. So it's sort of the opposite of the book of life. The book of life is all of the names, contains the names of all the people who are going to be saved one day. This is just the opposite. The scroll that's flying through the air, 20 cubits by 10 cubits, or 30 yards by 50, 30 feet by 30 by 15 feet. Try to see as that scroll flies by if your name's on it, because that's the name of all the wicked people in the world. Vision number 7 is a floating basket with a woman in it. That woman represents wickedness. She's taken to Babylon by 2 other women. How interesting that Babylon now is going to become this symbol of evil in the scriptures. So when we start talking about, we start getting these images of the whore of Babylon, which would later depict the Roman church, interestingly, right? How it is that Babylon is going to become this image of evil. And the 8th and final vision is 4 chariots with different colored horses going out in 4 directions. Again, that ties back to vision number 1. The last 2 chapters of Proto-Zechariah, chapters 7 and 8, deal with familiar standards of morality, things like rendering true judgment, right? If we were imagining the other day that Deacon Angelita were a judge for a moment, if she were a judge, would we want her to be a corrupt judge or a good judge? Right? So it's encouraging good standards of morality in terms of rendering true judgment, showing kindness and mercy, not oppressing widows and orphans and strangers and the poor, not secretly planning evil, not uttering false oaths, etc. And then finally in chapter 8 we have this vision of how it is that God is going to return to Zion and how it is that Jerusalem is going to be a faithful city. We're coming back and rebuilding Jerusalem. God is going to return to Jerusalem as well, and Jerusalem is going to be faithful. Oh, what a beautiful image. Proto-Zechariah, where do we find Proto-Zechariah in the Christian scriptures in the New Testament? Again, the measuring of Jerusalem, that image in Zechariah we're going to find in the book of Revelation. The collared horses and horsemen we're going to find in Revelation. The image of olive trees, again, in Revelation. And Revelation also has this image of the accuser. Let's take a look at this image of the accuser. That's in Zechariah chapter 3, verses 1 to 5, which is our text study. The accuser stands before the angel of the Lord. Chapter 3, verse 1. Then he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord and Satan standing at his right side to accuse him. So how interesting. Here, Satan is not some powerful, diabolical, demonic thing. Satan is simply the accuser. Hebrew word simply means the accuser. So we have the angel of the Lord, and we have the accuser. Sort of like in a court of law, there would be the prosecutor who would be there saying, this person has done this wrong. That's what the accuser does in this case. Verse 2, the Lord said to Satan, the Lord rebuke you, Satan. The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is not this man a burning stick snatched from the fire? Now, Joshua, how was he dressed? He was dressed in filthy clothes as he stood before the angel. The priest, in filthy clothes, what's it a symbol of? He's not clean. The angel said to those who were standing before him, take off his filthy clothes. Then he said to Joshua, see, I have taken away your sin, and I will put fine garments on you. Verse 5, then I said, put a clean turban on his head. So they put a clean turban on his head and clothed him while the angel stood by. Let's flash forward to chapter 4, verses 1 to 6. Chapter 4, verses 1 to 6. Here we have the gold lampstand and the 2 olive trees. Then the angel who talked with me returned and woke me up like someone awakened from sleep. He asked, what do you see? I said, I see a solid gold lampstand with a bowl at the top and 7 lamps on it with 7 channels to the lamps. A lot of this we're going to hear in the book of Revelation, a lot of symbolic numbers. Also there were 2 olive trees by it, one on the right of the bowl and the other on its left. I asked the angel who talked to me, what are these, my Lord? He answered, do you not know what these are? No, my Lord, I replied. So he said to me, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord Almighty. Flash forward to verse 11. Then I asked the angel, what are these 2 olive trees on the right and the left of the lampstand? Again, I asked him, what are these 2 olive branches beside the gold pipes that pour out golden oil? He replied, do you not know what these are? No, my Lord, I said. So he said, these are the 2 who are anointed to serve the Lord of all the earth. Who are the two olive trees, the 2 olive branches? symbolize them. The two who are anointed, oiled. Who are the two who've received olive oil? The governor, the king, and the priest. Priests, prophets, and kings were anointed. So the priest, Joshua, and the governor, Jerubbaal, were signified by that symbol. And there in verse 14, these are the two who are anointed to serve the Lord of all the earth. All this is beginning to foreshadow how it is that an anointed one, an oiled one, is going to step in to save us. What's the Hebrew word for oiled? The Messiah. The Greek word for Messiah? The Christ. Who are Christians going to see the oiled one to be? Jesus, the Messiah, the Christ.